what would be watch number 3, but is in fact now watch number 4.
Yeah, this is again a very important memento. This one was bought when my wife and I travelled to New York to celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary.
The one that we touched upon a moment ago that is never for sale.
This is absolutely keeper forever. Not just because it's got a significance like that, but I just really, really love the watch.
It's a tremendous looking watch.
Yeah.
It really is.
Again, nice box, nothing too grandiose, but you know, Rolex doesn't give you anything like that. Here she is, the big jumbo, 48 millimeters, if you please. So it has the redoubtable El Primero chronograph movement, 5 Hertz or 36,000 vibrations per hour. So that's the chronograph, but there is also an annual calendar. Now, the annual calendar movement in this is quite special because it was developed in 2011 in conjunction or collaboration with Dr. Ludwig Oechslin, who is one of the current generation of genius watchmakers. I mean, he's one of the cleverest guys. He can come up with movements which are incredibly complicated, but at the same time very simple, which sounds like a complete contradiction in terms. But to give you an idea, an annual calendar movement would typically require the addition of between 30 and 40 components on top of a watch to make it an annual calendar. Oechslin's design requires 9. He's also the guy who worked with Ulysse Nardin on their perpetual calendar movements, which are similarly incredibly clever but very, very simple. And they are the only perpetual calendar movements which you can wind backwards and forwards. You can change the dates backwards and forwards, and everything is connected and operates through the crown. You don't have any pushers on the side that you can create dates, mixtures of day, date, month and all the rest of it, which are complete nonsense. You can't do that with those movements because Dr. Ludwig has figured it out. And he gets so little credit for his genius. It's ridiculous. Ulysse Nardin perpetual calendars, you can pick them up for under £6,000. You go to someone like Patek Philippe, their perpetual calendar movements, the module for perpetual calendar can add as many as 200 components. And Oechslin thumbs his nose at them and says, "You idiots, why do you make it so complicated?" Oh, I know why you make it so complicated, because you can charge a fortune for it.
Yeah.
And those movements are delicate and fragile, and if you mess up the dates, you have to send it back to the factory, which you'll have to do in the year 2100, which is not an issue for someone of my vintage.
Do they overcomplicate it both for financial gain, but also for patented purposes? Obviously, small, tiny variables between watches that were first in manufacturing, they were almost over-engineered a lot of the time to get around legislation, patent legislation. Well, this is now our own. It's almost identical to something that's come before, but actually we over-engineer it, we can call it our own, and as you point out, you potentially charge a...
I think they do it for the purposes of being seen as the elite.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's all about. This is an incredibly special, incredibly complicated watch, and that is why we'll charge you €250,000 for it. The beauty of having fewer and fewer and fewer components is it means there are fewer and fewer things to go wrong. And it's far less fragile. This is a very robust movement. Now, this is a tool watch. And what a lot of people don't appreciate, when you talk about pilot watches, everyone automatically defaults towards, IWC and Breitling and
GMT Rolex or
Rolex. But the truth is, the first serious pilot watches were made by Zenith. And in fact, on the back of this watch, as I think you've got photographs of, there's an engraving of a little monoplane flying across the English Channel in 1909, flown by a guy called Louis Blériot, who was the first person ever to fly powered aircraft across the Channel. And he had a Zenith watch strapped to his thigh for that particular trip.
Is it because he thought it was too big for his wrist? I mean, I could probably wear this.
No, I think it was just
my
convenience.
thigh.
Yeah, it was just convenient, I think, and that's just where he wore it. And then pilots did tend to, they have maps and things on their thigh, and sometimes they have the clock on their thigh as well. And he was very, very pleased with its performance. I mean, the flight didn't take all that long, but Zenith had the foresight then to copyright the word pilot. And Zenith are the only watch manufacturer who are permitted to use the word pilot on the dial.
Wow.
So you go through all those Breitlings and IWCs and all the rest of it, and they'll say pilot watch this, pilot watch that, but they can't put the word pilot on the dial.
Wow.
This one has.
Wow, that is cool. Really cool.
I had seen this watch advertised in the UK by this American outfit in Brooklyn. It was kind of new old stock again, which is one of my preferred ways of buying watches. Ones that they've been sitting in a shop somewhere and someone else has acquired it. I saw this in a display cabinet and I thought, what a fabulous thing. I mean, it is huge. But that gigantic onion crown, so big because on aircraft of that vintage, you had to be wearing big sheepskin jacket and gloves. And you need to be able to adjust your watch. You can't take your gloves off when it's freezing. So it's very, very practical. And of course the legibility, if you're on an old aircraft which is vibrating like crazy, it's very hard to see and read anything. But when you've got a dial that size with huge numerals and great big cathedral hands, that's not a problem. So it's fair to say I don't wear it all that often, but I always enjoy wearing it when I do.
I mean, the dial is exceptional.
It's spectacular.
Absolutely exceptional.
Matte black. I mean, there's little details like you see on the second hand for the chronograph. There's a little trapezoidal gap there which is centered perfectly over the Zenith star. And it's only when you look for it and you see it and you go, oh, that's a nice touch. And on the back of the case flank here, the HB242, people go, well, what's that all about? What's HB? Well, on the back of a Swiss car, you'd see the letter CH. That denotes Swiss. But on aircraft, it's HB. It's Helvetica. That is the call sign on the back of Swiss aircraft is HB, not CH. And again, sensible use of materials there. They produce those in steel, but this one is titanium and gold. There was talk of an all gold one, but given the size of it, it would weigh so much.
It'd be a hell of a workout, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it was just too much. So that's a titanium case with gold accents, and one of my other watches you'll see is the other way around. It's a gold case with some titanium accents.
So when did you acquire this?
This was 2015.
Yeah.
Wedding was 1990.
Yeah.
The anniversary was 2015. So that's now 7 years.
So you knew you were going to get a watch to commemorate the anniversary, or it was kind of?
My wife kind of surprised me in the sense that I had talked. I think I was trying to tee it up with her because we went to West 47th Street. If you're interested in watches and you're in New York, you have to go to West 47th Street because there are literally hundreds of thousands of the finest watches in the world available there. I had seen this one advertised online, and it was out in the boonies out in Brooklyn, way out of central Manhattan. And my wife and I walked most of the way there, but we couldn't quite find where we were going, and went into a shop and asked directions, and they said, you don't really want to be walking there. I'm like, why? You just don't really want to be walking there.
I'm walking here! I'm walking here!
I suggest you get a cab.
What did you know about the watch prior to seeing it for the first time?
I'd done my usual research. I mean, I've always liked Zenith as a brand. I think they are, again, hugely underrated. They make top-notch watches. The El Primero is one of the greatest chronograph movements ever, if not the greatest. It has, since 1969, undergone 1,000 iterations of improvement. They take that movement very, very seriously. It is revered, and it should be by any watch collector.
When does it get time on your wrist, Doug?
Often when my wife and I are out somewhere together, even if it's just going somewhere like out to the coast for a coffee and a mooch, that's when I'll choose to wear it. And she'll notice it.
Yeah.
She'll say, oh, you're
nice.
wearing the watch.
Is,
and I say, yeah,
nice.
I'm wearing
really
the watch.
That's really nice. It doesn't have to be for, I was thinking you were going to say, well, put it on when it's my anniversary and we go out for a meal.
Not quite as rare as that, no, but...
a little bit more frequently, but it's that time with your good lady rather than perhaps any other time, because it's that. Yeah, that's nice. Really like that.
Yeah,
really
I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. As luck would have it, we went to see a Broadway show starring the one and only Alfredo Pacino. And you literally couldn't make this stuff up. Part of the plot around this rather bizarre play, which was written by David Mamet and was called China Doll, was that he, the main character, Pacino, had got himself into trouble with the IRS because he had bought a private jet and hadn't changed the letters on the tail to CH for Switzerland. And I'm sitting there thinking, hang on a minute, it's
That
not
is
CH for Switzerland.
Very peculiar.
This was in the script, and you think, my God, you would expect a Hollywood script writer like David Mamet to do his research and know that aircraft from Switzerland have HB on the flank
Wow.
rather than CH. The original Daytona was powered by a Zenith movement. And Zenith didn't really get the credit it deserved for that movement. But the fact now that they're making watches which kind of ape the Daytona, it's a bit of a shame. But I can see why a lot of people would want that, because say, well, A, the Daytona is a lot more expensive, and B, it's almost completely unattainable. So I might as well go the next best thing. Get a Zenith. It's easily as well made as the Daytona. And it says, you're not afraid to go your own way. I mean, and that completely jibes with my whole philosophy on watch collecting, is go your own way.
100%.
Buy and wear what you like.
I feel like we might need to bring in Fleetwood Mac at this point. So, Doug, watch number five, but should be 4, but we haven't seen the Monaco in person. We'll just keep reminding myself
So this
of that,
is 4
really.
that I actually still have.
Exactly.
But the 5th
Yeah.
watch we've seen today.
Absolutely.
Right. So what is this?
It's a Jaeger-LeCoultre.
Jaeger-LeCoultre. Oh, there's so many arguments. I always used to call it Jaeger as well. Jaeger-LeCoultre.
I'm wondering, and I don't drink enough of it, so don't know the spelling, but Jaeger bombs, Jaeger bombs, Jaeger
I think that's
bombs?
probably Jaeger, because that's probably German.
Yeah,
Now,
okay.
the argument about this is that the Alsace region of France, which is where the Jaeger family came from, was German speaking at the time.
Okay.
But it is actually part of France, and Antoine Lecoultre is French. So as far as he was concerned, everything is with the French pronunciation, not the German.
Like Longines,
Yeah,
Saint-Imier.
it sounds nicer anyway.
It does, sounds much nicer.
But it's still a bit of a mouthful, so a lot of people just say JLC.
Yes, to
Simplifies
avoid
life.
the potential correction, but look at that. Woof!
Bada bing! This is the Master Compressor Extreme World Time Alarm. Quite a mouthful. 47mm rose gold case with titanium inner case. This is a world timer, as the name suggests, and it has a mechanical alarm. And JLC are probably the preeminent makers of alarm watches. They've been making ones usually with the name Memovox since the 1950s. Quite handy for people traveling, business people going around, just reminders whether the car's parking meter's about to expire or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But this is a special limited edition brought out in honour of the one and only Valentino Rossi, the incredible MotoGP motorbike racer. It's kind of ironic that they should make a watch as big as this, because he's a really small guy.
He is, yeah. I
He
don't
probably
think
looks
it's,
like he's built like a jockey. And to have a watch this size and rose gold, which is heavy as it is a bit funny. But this one's only 346 of these made. His race number is 46, and every one of them limited editions that they did connected to him would finish with a 46. So there's 1046 or 346 or whatever it was they would make. This is number 317 of 346. And the connection for me with this watch is slightly odd and tenuous. It relates to a trip I took for my 50th birthday with a couple of mates who went to the States, went to Las Vegas. Not much happened, honest. We
quiet
hired.
night.
We
We're in
hired-
at 8:30, and we saw a bit of the desert.
We went to the desert, yeah. We hired Harley Davidsons, rode out to Death Valley, which was mad. Even in September, it was 44 degrees or something. We couldn't go any further because we were starting to melt. But the other big thing that we did on that trip was we drove from Las Vegas out to Monterey on the Californian coast and did a track day at Laguna Seca, which is one of the race tracks that Valentino Rossi and others made famous over the years. Absolutely terrifying experience. You go up a hill and it's completely blind. You can't see where the apex is. You go up this hill and then you turn left and you drop 3 stories. Just think about that. You drop 3 stories and at the bottom of it there's a compression because the road then turns to the right. And you feel like your front forks are going to collapse and you're going to get thrown over the handlebars and everyone's going to drive over you.
So much for you to take on, Doug, in this situation, because you've also just got off some big heavy cruisers that you've just been pootling around.
Yeah, Harley Davidson Road King.
And then suddenly you're on a crotch rocket faced with probably the most challenging section of any racetrack in the world.
I don't think I would have the nerve to do it now, but I think part of it was I had no idea what I was getting into. I had never done a track day in my life. I had never ridden little sports bikes. And we turned up there, and as is very common in that part of the world, in the summertime, well, it was September, the whole place was shrouded in fog. So we had a visibility of about 50 yards at most. And we had this insane Turkish guy, German Turk, who used to be a professional racer, with the intercoms saying, "Follow me," and off he went. It was like going on a skiing lesson with somebody who lives in the mountains. Just follow me, do what I do, and I'll talk you around the corners. Tires were cold, the track was cold, I was cold, couldn't see where I was going. It was absolutely nuts.
An attack of the senses.
Yeah. So, to get back to the watch, because it's a world timer, that's one of the complications I wanted. In my complication bingo, I've got to get a world timer.
Yeah.
Oh, and an alarm as well. 2 for 1. But whereas the usual cities around the world, there's 24 principal time zones, there's probably more like 37 time zones that are used, but the principal ones are 24. Some of the city names have been substituted for the names of racetracks. And instead of having Los Angeles as the time zone out west coast, this had Laguna Seca on it. And I went, I've been to Laguna Seca. I've actually ridden around Laguna Seca. So there's a watch with that on the dial. I need to have this in my life. Probably the most spurious argument you could ever have.
No, I think there's a
blowing a lot of
tangible
money
link,
on
and
a
that's
watch.
enough. How soon after the trip did you acquire?
Within a year.
Okay, and how soon? When did you see the watch? When you first sort of made aware of its existence?
I think it was sometime after that trip to the States. When I saw that one, I thought I should really grab it because it's very rare and it's very special. If you look at the range that JLC produces now, they've moved back towards the more refined, more normal, if you like, sizing. Moved away from that big heavy stuff.
Its party piece is obviously the alarm. Doug knew he needed to just bring it into conversation, but very subtly. So we're sat, we're chatting away, we're getting to know each other, and then
it's not all that loud, but it's loud enough.
it's loud enough, but
If you've got that on your bedside table,
it's not offensive
That'll
though,
wake
is it?
you up.
Yeah, but not in a holy God, like a smoke alarm
yeah,
or
you're not going
something.
to jump out of your
it's-
skin.
and it's quite a.
And it's got a separate barrel. So you've got a barrel for the watch and a separate barrel for the alarm mechanism,
Yeah.
so that if your watch is running down, your alarm will still function quite
You won't
happily.
sleep through the alarm if you've knocked your power reserve.
Yeah. So I'll just flick that toggle switch and then I can rewind the barrel for the alarm.
That is very cool.
So that brings us to the final piece.
The finale. And would you say you've saved your best till last, or?
Sans doute. Not only chronologically, it's the most recent acquisition. Is the beer finished?
No.